It's going to be a yap session. Okay, the media environment in the United States right now is in chaos. Donald Trump has been moving like a bullet train, signing a slew of executive orders, freezing aid, pushing ICE raids, banning birthright citizenship. It's a clusterfuck. And as I said before, panic is at an all-time high. Obviously, made worse by fascistic promises from last year and, you know, signals that show up every so often. So naturally, that lends itself to one of the noisiest political environments ever, where it's hard to see what's real and what's fake and to problem solve around it. If that seems familiar, it's very similar actually to things like January 6th, 9/11, Gaza, school shootings, and the first Trump administration. And it's hard to sift through these environments and see what consequences have sticking power long term. And on top of that, when it comes to threats of fascism or authoritarianism or celestial dragonism, I don't know, the playbook most people use is from 50 years ago, when the methodology of how authoritarians move and what tributaries they serve was drastically different. Social structures, media, and even conventional morality have changed substantially since a century ago when Hitler and Mussolini were in power. Now, yes, this new environment opens up a lot of dangerous tools fascistic leaders can use, but also it limits them in ways they have real difficulties dealing with. So listen, let's go through, in the modern social-driven world that we live in, how to fight modern-day fascism, how the techniques work, where they're weak, and what you can do. And let's start by saying this is not going to be the encyclopedia of everything you can do. There are more ways to engage. There are different ways to think about this. I'm speaking on ways the media environment works, and specifically within politics and the way Trump plays politics. I'm really aware of this world and how the messaging within it is distributed. Also, I'm a battle rapper. I am a seasoned general in media wars. I am a tenured professor there. Number two, a reminder that a president cannot unilaterally enforce things he signs. He needs compliance from other agencies writ large and the other branches of government before I hear, well, he'll just do it anyway. Number three, I'm going to divide this video into a trifecta of major fascistic tactics: overwhelming the media, dog whistles, signals, and indoctrination, and physical threats / implementation of policy. Cool. That was already way too long. All right, let's start with overwhelming the media. As you've heard, this is him. Trump promised shock and awe within his first 100 days, and he has really hit the gas, trying to prove that he has no limits. He can do whatever he wants. Suck it, cucks. I shouldn't have to tell you that this is actually exactly what he did the first time, but I will, because on the other side of that coin, Democratic surrogates and political entities are capitalizing on it by going, oh my God, do you know that we died? There's no going back. This is against the law, and we will all be lowered into carbonite and sold to huts to mount on their wall. Now listen, that is not to make light of real consequences facing undocumented immigrants, trans people, people on government assistance. Those are real, and we will go through those, trust me. But ratcheting up that type of fear to try to grab the narrative for the next 100 days or 4 years or whatever is actually counterintuitive in this instance, because often it can become noise, and in the worst case, conspiracies. There was a ton of disinformation last week, from innocuous stuff like, is this Melania a body double, to, hey, Mark Zuckerberg apparently owns TikTok now. For one, that makes it very easy for Trump to use hyperbole to push the fact that he can do anything. He's a strong man. So it means that any small inconsistency Trump does will make headlines and have a full cycle, illustrating him as a powerful entity that people need to fear and be subjugated against. This is a powerful strategy for strongmen and would-be authoritarians. It helps blunt opposition because many people will tune out, and others will be so exhausted they become cynical and defeatist. It's the war of attrition. As well, rational, well-intentioned arguments or discussions will get drowned out by algorithms who are overloaded with partisans sniping at each other through quote retweets and stitches before the long-term status sets in. I'll give you an example, the federal aid story. Trump suspended a bunch of federal aid, which includes things like funding for infrastructure, grant programs, loan programs, sending a lot of shit into chaos and claiming that he was fighting DEI. And again, this would have a substantial effect on the economy in many ways. Now, not too long after that order went into effect and made headlines, a judge blocked it, but the damage was already done because he gained a full day of dominating the top story, looking to less discerning people like he was unstoppable until he was, stopped, which is the point you should be wary of. New age fascists are not trying to win the policy war this early on. They want to win the messaging war. And the message they want is Donald Trump or whoever the fuck is there is inevitable. He cannot be restrained. Don't fuck with us or we'll eat you alive. A couple ways to stop this. One, obviously, don't feed the trolls. There are a million surrogates and pundits who are 100% trying to bait you. That includes Republicans who will cape for Trump. That includes liberals who say that Joe Biden should have ran. That includes Green Party people who are like, well, guess what? If only you could have voted for Jill so you could feel morally superior while other people lose their rights. Oh, look at me. I want attention, bitch ass. Getting angry and becoming a quote retweet of content to these people is like handing Sonic the Hedgehog a bag of fucking rings. Two, and this is important, be way more discerning with your attention on platforms like X, Threads, Blue Sky, or even TikTok. They prioritize reactive engagements around news rather than substantive discussions about how the general public actually feels. And there's a ton of surrogates and partisans on each of those platforms that will push whatever they feel out. And look, all of these can be useful tools in different circumstances. Yes, even X. But in moments when there is so much going on and you can't keep up with the barrage of things overwhelming you, unplug. And when you are plugged in, look for long-term impacts of stories and ones with no mitigation opportunities. Come back to those and amplify your opposition there. If you sustain shifting focus to important topics and you make the stakes of that important topic relevant to as many people as possible, you will cut through that noise. And being discerning is very important there. But for now, we are September 12th. We are January 7th. We're October 8th, where everything is everywhere all the time. So check back for the important stories. Give each story an urgency rating. Anything under a 5, don't overstress it, but also don't let Trump strap you in for the whole ride. I'm not saying don't pay attention. I'm saying be judicious with how you use your time and what things you invest into, or you're going to be playing into his hand. So if you've been following this channel for a while, you'll know that I have sleep apnea. Right? I got a CPAP machine not too long ago, and it really changed my relationship with sleep and being able to get some. But look, that didn't change my hectic schedule. And like I said, I have ADHD, and sometimes my mind is racing super, super fast. And it's hard to relax as you fall asleep sometimes if you're still kind of distracted from a bunch of different things you were just doing. But look, I talked a little bit about how my manager turned me on to this thing a few months ago, Magic Mind. It was something I started to take in place of pre-workout and caffeine to try to help me focus a little bit better and also not get the jitters all the time. And it's just a basic nootropic supplement, right, that helps you focus a little bit better. It tastes like orange juice, has a bunch of really good stuff in it, like ashwagandha, matcha green tea. Well, they decided to make a sleep performance shot, and they sent me a box. I tried it like a couple nights ago, and man, I felt really like clear as soon as I woke up. But look, like the other Magic Mind product, this one also has a lot of really good ingredients for you in it, like chamomile stuff to help you fall asleep quicker, wake up more refreshed. And again, Magic Mind is one of those things where you don't have to change your daily routine. It's a nice addition to your daily routine. So if you have coffee or if you have tea or something to wind down with at night, this is just a nice thing you take on top of all of that. And it just helps round out the edges. And like personally for me, it just gives me a little bit more clarity throughout my day. And if you want to give it a shot, no pun intended, you can go to magicmind.com/ZJan and get 45% off the sleep supplement and the normal supplement bundle. And there's a 100-day money-back guarantee if it's not meeting the standards that you want. So look, if you're like me and you have ADHD, or you want to get a better night's sleep, or you just want to support this cool rapper guy who gives news and shit all the time, go to magicmind.com/ZJan, get 45% off, and get the boost you need. All right. Back to the breakdown. Number 2, dog whistles. Dog whistles and symbolism and pejorative framing are like the cornerstone for building a scapegoat so you can have people give you power to cudgel the scapegoat. The damage here is obvious, right? It emboldens nationalist and nativist groups. It separates communities into hierarchical structures. It demonizes and creates a permission structure to concur with horrific ideas for the good of the state. And an important thing to realize about this trick doesn't only work on people who are already bigots. It's a brainwashing tool that works on everyone, including people who are vehemently against bigotry. It builds them a permission structure to adopt bigoted ideas into their persona, even though they would have rejected them outright originally. There are similar techniques used by battle rappers to undercut their opponents and flip like a few kind of fans who are on the fence on the other side to their own. So I'll give you an example. Let's take the woke DEI backlash bullshit or whatever, all right? So let's say somebody has the ideology of gay people and trans people should be who they are. They should get to do whatever they want, love who they love. The government should not get in their way, right? I would want to be the first parent my child told if they were gay or trans. This may or may not be an actual conversation I had with somebody who said this in real life. Now, this person, who doesn't really engage in politics too much, sees a video on his feed of Ben Shapiro fighting college students. He skips past it. He doesn't care. But then he sees a video of Ben Shapiro talking about child abductions, like real child abductions, people getting kidnapped. Well, oh my goodness, this guy has children. What's going on here? And then later on the next day, he sees a video about Puff Daddy. Oh my God, Puffy did all this weird shit and he tried to kill Tupac and 1,000 bottles of baby oil from that guy? That's fucking horrible. And there were apparently underage people there too. Insane. And then a couple days go by and then he sees a fourth video. If you think this is unrealistic, it's called retargeting. You can fucking look it up. It's an essential tool that's used all the time. But anyway, he looks up that fourth video and then it says, do you notice how everybody talks about trans people like all of the time? Do you think that they want to force that kind of lifestyle onto your kid, whether they like it or not? And they're kind of going to push them towards that, even though they may not feel that way. Also, do you notice that they're kind of erasing people who look like you from movies and everything like that? What's going on there? To many discerning people, they can see the game that's being played here. But this motherfucker doesn't know that because he doesn't follow politics 24/7 like my ass does, because I drink the poison. He just saw 2 stories of child trafficking, which on the surface are true. So he trusts this fucking guy all of a sudden. And now he starts to rethink trans stuff because it's filmed through the lens of his child that he has. And this guy who seems trustworthy all of a sudden. You may find that far-fetched, but it happens for left-wing shit too. It is a dirty secret that everybody in entertainment and media knows happens all the time. You know that video Loose Change? That video that purported the theory that George Bush secretly orchestrated 9/11, which became a widely believed theory for a number of years? Some people still think the assassination was staged. Permission structures like these ones work on incentives. You adopt ideologies because you gain from them emotionally, socially, or materially most of the time. Like, I know a lot of people who tell me, like, listen, you're a Muslim and I respect your religion. I just want to let you know, I respect you. Free Palestine. But then years earlier in high school or wherever, we're like, you don't let like women drive, right? Like that's like a thing. Like they cover their face and don't drive. Also, what happens when you eat a pepperoni? Do you get struck by lightning? Look, I'm glad they abandoned those stereotypes for a much more genuine view of who I am, right? But at the same time, they did it because they were incentivized to. Hey, if you think this is a Roman salute, you might get to go to Mars. If you listen to Jordan Peterson, you'll be smarter than everybody else and have a direction in your life. That's your pitch. It's a pretty insidious trick, but there's one last trick I do want to mention. I know this explanation is going a little bit long, but this one's important. He who should not be named. Every so often, there is a phrase or a word or a small symbol or term that fascistic movements will take and label as a Trojan horse for the destruction of society. You know, woke, BLM, gangbangers, defund the police, socialists, hippies, fucking nanny staters. They'll take the term and then they will shift it over like a few months. And if it sticks, if they win that battle at shifting the term to making it a pejorative, that word automatically will lose you any argument publicly. Now, look, I don't mean actually substantively lose you the argument, right? You could be right about everything, right? You could be saying like the sky is blue and Panic at the Disco songs are way too fucking long in the way they are titled. Who did this? For what you are trying to fight fascists over, expanding their base and building complicity with people who are less politically engaged, you lose the argument. The optics race. The goal of reclassifying that language is to make you seem out of touch or unstable or Machiavellian and irrational so that less politically engaged people feel, oh, I can't listen to that. It's exhausting to listen to those ideas. Not that they are actually exhausting, but they have been framed as this overly indulgent extremist idea that a lot of normal people just don't want to get into the weeds with. And it's not exclusive to any political ideology. It can be done by the alt-right or the far left or fucking anybody from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. But how do you fight it? Okay, two ways. Number one, you need to incentivize progressive policies and goals into tangible benefits. So for example, participating in the 2008 election of Barack Obama was a singular historical experience. It was like this idea that finally, after being at each other's throats over this very, very unpopular war where thousands of people were dying, you would find unity and you'd actually get to be a part of history for once. Another example, and I mentioned this before, gay marriage. It took a while to humanize this issue and take away all of the stereotypes about gay and lesbian people, right? And all of a sudden, people felt like they were doing the right thing and defending these people from government overreach and from extremist zealots like the Westboro Baptist Church. All of a sudden, because of people like Pat Robertson and Rick Santorum, the conservatives were the overreactionaries. And I get it. A lot of motherfuckers who are just hopping on the bandwagon who aren't really about it like that. Yeah, that is unfortunately how politics, front-facing movements, and honestly, the entertainment industry work. Any community with a large mass of people has diehards, the fans, and the casuals. The casuals are what make you an overwhelming success. The other thing to note, if somebody reclassifies a statement as pejorative, like woke or SJW, let them have it. For example, conservatives lost the messaging war on Black Lives Matter to most of the country, but they did win on making the term woke a pejorative. But also, they made the terms racist, white supremacist, and even fascist, although the last one may be hitting a lot harder these days after what we've seen. They've succeeded to some degree in sidelining those terms and being triggers for people disengaging with the conversation. I said this in the other episode, but like, for example, if you say somebody's rhetoric is racist or in service of white supremacy, right, they'll immediately go to, what the fuck? You're insane. Those are insane mythological creatures we would read about in history books who existed 1,000 years ago when there were dragons and shit like that. Not like me, who believes everything that they say. So do you just stop calling out that behavior altogether? No, you find other defining terms. Like in 2016, alt-right. They tried to create the alt-left. Didn't really work all that well. They did get Antifa though. But I'll give you a few terms I've seen floating around. Nativist, broligarch, scammer, eugenicist, Timu Tony Stark, whatever the fuck works. Also Justin Hammer, not Tony Stark. His shit don't work. Look, it's a lot of work to redefine another movement's terms and less work to introduce new ones. And look, even though it feels like you're giving up something on the surface level of your argument, you're actually using the tool of their dog whistle against them. Quick example from a rap battle. A minor was off limits for Drake. It was going to be corny if he tried to flip it anyway. It's off limits after Not Like Us. And he still tried to flip it. And that was the point of the song where everybody went, come the fuck on, bro. It's already defined. You're going to look weak. Lastly, tangible policy that passes and physical enforcement. Trump has once again started massive ICE raids on cities, attempting mass deportations, even sometimes detaining Native Americans in those raids. Now, Trump cutting all of the federal aid may have been blocked by a judge, but there are other programs he is going to try to gut or minimize or act like it wasn't even there in the first place. As well, the trans community is feeling it. right now, with multiple attacks on trans rights that have escalated day by day, everything from identification forms to their ability to participate in the military, with the language the administration uses on these orders getting more cruel and callous by the order. And look, there are many accelerationists who will say, hey, now is the time. Remember the French Revolution? But here is where what I said at the beginning, that the landscape for fighting fascists has changed drastically, comes into play. Because World War II happened. It occurred. A majority, like a vast majority of people, believe all of the things that happened there. And people associate violence with both chaos and dictatorship. So it is not hard to see a propaganda machine like Trump's, who controls every narrative. Remember, that is his special sauce since before he became even president, to completely obliterate the public trust in your movement by going, see, violence. That shit happens all the fucking time. It has worked maybe a few times, but with how media driven everything is and how people are averse to violence like that, dude, you're not Mandela, you're not Che Guevara. Political violence looks fucking terrifying to independents and normal people because they don't understand materially what the stakes are. And most of them are like, whoa, I didn't even want to pay attention to this stuff and for it to destroy my life. And now they want to kill me because I'm not engaged with it, with them. That example has happened so many fucking times around the world. It has curbed revolutions. It has made revolutions that succeeded become more authoritarian. But look, that abhorrence to cruelty and blood swing both ways. All of these orders, for the most part, feel like overreach. When presidents do this much in their first 100 days and the public is hearing from them all the time, they're like, whoa, what the fuck? Why am I hearing about this? The problem is when the president does this much is either they're too sure of themselves or the human cost, which is why in this instance, to combat it, you need another culture play. You need to show the human cost of what is happening to trans individuals under Trump's ban. I'm not talking about tweets about consequences. Show people. Walk them through it. Do what Will Ferrell did with his friend. Muslims did this. The day of the Muslim ban, stories of hundreds of Muslims coming to light, pictures, testimonials, talking about family members that were separated from them, talking about the pain they'd experienced since 9/11. People in Gaza did this. The people who had family in Gaza did this, to the point where the propaganda that had papered over so much of what was going on there evaporated, and people could see the complexities and the nuances of what has been happening to civilians there for so long. Lafayette Square, there is a good argument you could make that footage itself began the conversation about the instability of Donald Trump that would make him eventually lose the 2020 election. And according to the data around these executive orders and what people are saying, it can go to that point again. But the other idea to curb these things is obviously to organize. Help people find cute winter boots on TikTok. Cute winter boots. But also shield your trans friends from people who have really bad intentions. Or help your trans friends find work if it becomes more difficult for them. Or housing. Or aid in case Trump ratchets down anymore. Donate to trans-related organizations, mutual aid. Trump will back off of a group when the political feasibility and the optics of a situation start to seem too cruel, like way too cruel. He backed off Muslims for a long while because we became less juicy to diss to his base. And then he came back again. But look, you are not in a conversation or a fight to convince Trump loyalists these people are human. You don't win the fight against these guys by like, oh, when will these people abandon Donald Trump? That's not your barometer. You are trying to convince the non-engaged general public about what is going on. And by the way, the polls say they agree with you. And I'm sure I will get naysayers in this who say I'm like half piecing it. This is how a majority of movements in the United States have achieved any medium of change over the last century or more. This is how the Zadroga bill and the Burn Pits bill got passed. This is how the Civil Rights Act of 1968 got passed. This is how marriage equality got passed. Purity testing is a gift to your enemy. Violence can easily be manipulated in an environment where the media platforms control everything, and they do control everything. And fascists thrive on aesthetics and the exhaustion of others. Don't let them have that. I talk a lot of shit, but I know how media wars work. I've won a few of them. It was really hard, but I did it. This is a process. It's a winnable one. Get some rest and then get to work. That's our show. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. This is really long. I hope Mario doesn't hate cutting this. And my name is Zaid Tabani. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see y'all soon. Let's go.